days to the Presidential and National Assembly polls, candidates and political parties are now devising ways to mitigate the effects of the naira scarcity on their electoral quest. Currently, there is tension in the polity, and that on account of the scarcity of the new naira notes in circulation. Since the CBN introduced the redesigned naira and cash limit policy of 500,000 naira and 5 million naira a week for individuals and corporate organizations, many politicians have been kept on their toes. Getting cash to prosecute Saturday's election is now a Herculean task for them. But they are not giving up as they devise new methods like card vouchers to reach voters.
No fewer than 6 persons were killed when some gunmen attacked the 33rd Police Divisional Headquarters in Ohi local government area of Anambra State. Well, this comes less than 24 hours after an attack at Ukpo and Ogidi where 3 policemen were killed. Anambra Police Command spokesperson Ikani, a deputy superintendent of police who confirmed the attack, said 6 of the attackers were neutralized. He also said 1 police officer was fatally wounded. He says the station is now under control.
And while Anambra State Governor Chukwuma Soludo has asked members of the public to embrace peace and wait for the report of the investigation team set up by the Inspector General of Police to investigate the claim that police officers are involved in the violent crimes in the state. This comes amid reports of alleged human rights abuses by some officers of the Rapid Response Squad attached to Zone 13 headquarters, Ukpo. In a statement issued by the media aide to the governor, Chris Abrime, Soludo also directed the State Attorney General to immediately call for and review all the files of cases on alleged human rights violations by the said RRS.
Well, lawyer and former Attorney General of the Kogi State, as Ben Ikani, joins us now in the studio to actually take a look at some of this not so pleasant developments. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program, Ben. Well, I want to actually start with this unfortunate development coming out of Anambra State, but this burning of police stations is not necessarily synonymous to Anambra State, but we're seeing an increase there. And the big question is, have we been able to get to the root cause of this attacks on not just police but government infrastructure, particularly in the southeast, and also its implication as we look forward to the elections, which are barely days away?
Yeah, thank you, Amaka. The issue is very pathetic and worrisome. As a matter of fact, as somebody who has dwelled in the community of law enforcement from the past 30 years, I should be able to tell you what is really happening in these incessant attacks is the failure of intelligence. If the entire locales are involved in, harvesting intelligence and sending it to the right people, this thing can be taken care of. Because it's mere criminality. They are not even agitators. And these criminals are being used by people who are not, cannot withstand the progress the nation is making towards clean election.
Who are you suspecting?
I'm suspecting the people, the stakeholders.
Who are the stakeholders? The
stakeholders are, without missing word, are the politicians. Because Mr. President has tried by the singular act of passing this electoral act. He has done well. And we have even been expecting him or the nation, I don't know where the problem lies now. If they had passed the Electoral Offences Commission Act, men by now will be thinking of a very clean electoral process.
Right.
Because the issue that is drawing us back in our elections are human factors. And these are the activities of people who already don't give up to change easily. They want the old way of doing things, which has brought this country back to the Stone Age to continue.
So what sort of implications would you say this would have on the forthcoming general elections? And also marry that with the role of the governors as chief security officers of their states.
Yes, but let me tell you one thing. I'm convinced that Nigerians, especially the youth, are well conscientized. So whatever anybody thinks they are doing to slow the process, I think by Saturday you know that their aims will be defeated. Because you cannot even really say, talk of governance. Some of them are very, very self-serving. And because of that, they've just bound out issue of human rights, protection, we are protecting our people, but all these are mere sophistries. They don't mean it.
That's very risky to assume. It's very risky to assume that by Saturday there will be calm, or that the voters will not mind all these agitations and then just go out to vote. This can have an immense impact on the voters and can cause voter apathy. No doubt, nobody wants to go out to vote when they're scared of what might happen to them if there's so much agitation.
Well, let me tell you, I belong to a group that we are practically conscientizing Nigerians. If they think by all these threats or what is happening, it's going to be secluded.
Tell us how you're going about conscientizing.
We have been talking to people. I believe, because I'm a retired officer, and I tell you specifically, I've devoted my time to see a better Nigeria for my country. Because what is going on now is unacceptable. So if they think by all this, there'll be voters' apathy, please, let's see Saturday. You'll be surprised.
Okay, you're very optimistic, and I'm, trying to join in your optimism. Well, let's talk about another issue that seemed to have some sort of implications on the forthcoming elections. Speaking about lack of cash. We do know that APC governors actually had a meeting today with the national chairman of their party, and of course their stance is still clear. The president needs to do more beyond what he has done with the 200 naira announcement and all of that. But you know what? Some are actually of the opinion that there's so much that can be done with cash. The Electoral Act 2022, especially Section 88, subsection 4, did talk about, there's certain amounts that are earmarked for procurement of elections, not necessarily buying votes, for logistics and other reasons. Are you worried that this scarcity of cash will have some sort of implications on our elections, even though, the act didn't really specify if it's by cash or by transfer, but it is there that money should circulate, really?
Yes, I agree with you, but the provisions in the act specify what can be spent in an election by politicians. That's agreed. Then, if you talk of raw cash, that's not the answer. You can procure whatever I want to procure through transfer. I tell you categorically today, I bought this wiper to my car that I lost some out of the. Then, without thinking about how I'm going to pay, the guy on the roadside told me I can transfer, and I transferred 3,000. So whatever I want to procure for your supporter, whatever, do it by transfer. And let me tell you one thing about this issue of cashless society is the best. If we have been mounting that we want to fight corruption, I just left EFCC as a director. I will tell you, EFCC is doing very, very well on issue of enforcement, EFCC and ICPC. But there is more to fighting corruption. These are some of the parameters, what should be set up that the federal government has owned up to now. That's why I'm praising the president, because issue of money laundering and corruption, if you have proper tracing system, any money you send to somebody, so like I send money to American, 10 years I will go to the computer to show that it went to you from my account. That is the only way we can bring down corruption.
Okay.
Corruption is not by enforcement alone. There are some in the ecosystem of fighting corruption. You must make sure all the necessary infrastructures are there. It should not only be by enforcement, and that is what this government is facing.
Now, the M3 economy that you gleefully just talked about, which we call a cashless economy, is quite attractive and very convenient. But there's no doubt that we're still very much behind in cashless economy. Looking also at the literacy rate in Nigeria, and also our mindset that perhaps we need a paradigm shift. A lot of people, a lot of traders will still not take transfers. And on the other hand, we also know what happens with bank transactions, where you make transfers and they are delayed and then you get debited and all that. These complications are a huge discouragement to what you're talking about. So how do you hope to manage this during the elections when INEC needs to procure logistics?
That's a good question. Let me tell you, this issue of cashless policies started as far back as October last year.
Actually, 2012.
Thank you. So it is the duty or the responsibility of the people who call themselves leaders of the sub-regions to have even energize the process of making sure all the infrastructures are ready instead of going to court to disturb the good intention of Mr. President and CBN. They would have used, there's a way you can activate certain systems that will work in your area. Those who are crying there is no network in the area, what have they done? Have they assisted the telecommunication people to mass animals in their region, in their states? No, they are waiting. So the action, if you wait until everything is perfect, we can never get there. Where we are now is the beginning of the entire thing. I'm telling you now, for the past 2 weeks, I've never seen paper money, even my wallet, but I didn't transfer, and it's going. And then the issue of saying we're illiteracy, don't let overplay that issue. Nigeria, the literacy level, I'm not going to base it on statistics now, because even my old mother, she's 80-something years now in the village, uses phone. When I transfer, she gets a lot. So also every other person, you don't need to go to Harvard to be highly literate before you can use cashless. No. Those people do that. They are giving what we call just call dog in any bad name. I call dog in any name. I call it that because because the good intention of Mr. President CBN, some people are approaching it wrongly. We can never get there unless we start. Like Chinese says, a journey of many miles. Thank you.
We have to say thank you so much for joining us tonight, and of course for helping us unpack all of these big issues. We have to say thank you to Ben Ikani, of course, former Attorney General, Kogi State, and former Director of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My pleasure.